Jacques Talk is sponsored by Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Injury Attorneys.
Well, what do we have to talk about today? Tell you what, Greg Bowser is with us. He was a nose guard defensive lineman for the LSU Tigers, played for the great Charles McClendon and Jerry Stovall, and he's been doing broadcasting of some kind for basically 3 decades. Thanks for coming down, Greg.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
Good to see you.
Glad to see that you remember who I am. You know?
Well, I think all LSU football fans know Greg Bowser and your contributions. I guess, you know, some people, they grew up on you as a player, and then there's the other group that just know you as a broadcaster, maybe.
Yeah, the broadcasting thing was a lot of fun. I mean, it gives me a chance to stay connected and do a lot of interesting things and be around the game, and it's just a lot of fun.
Well, I remember Tiger Vision. Maybe not everybody remembers it, but especially in the days of Curly Hallman, you might have got 1 or 2 games on TV, and the rest of them you relied on the golden pipes of Jim Hawthorne, or you pay $49.99 to catch it on Tiger Vision.
Yeah, we did Tiger Vision for a while, and then went away from that. And I think they finally expanded, and you had the Jefferson Pilot Network came in and started doing SEC games, and we did that. I did that for a while with Lynn Rollins. I did that for about 10 years.
And then CST came along, which has already come and gone, but it was a huge part of LSU sports fans' television for many years. And kind of the first time, really, I remember they were going to replay the game. You could watch a replay of the LSU game.
Every
you didn't
Thursday,
do that.
Thursday and Sunday or something?
Sunday night for
Sunday
sure.
night for sure,
because, I mean, they had these things called VHS tapes that you record the games on maybe and watch it at your house. But, I mean, I remember watching Inside LSU Football because they would replay the highlights and stuff on Sunday night. But, I remember you and Lynn Rollins made a great team doing those games. Yeah,
the game would come on Sunday night, rerun, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun.
And now you're doing some high school games on Friday.
Now I'm doing some high school games on Friday, kind of getting myself back into it. When I was doing Cox Sports for a while, I had, between that, I got married and then had a kid, and my oldest son was playing high school football. So he did Friday night, and then he went to college and started playing at McNeese. Well, that was Saturday, so you kind of like either have to keep doing the games or go to his game. So we took a break.
Well, some people might say, Greg, you're doing high school ball. That's the only place where the game is still pure, right?
Well, it's not going to be for long.
Right. It's all trickling down.
NIL is coming to a high school near you soon.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, let's start with the latest and maybe not so greatest, or however you want to view it. Brian Kelly, an embarrassing defeat to Texas A&M. I think when we all left Tiger Stadium in the rain on Saturday night, we figured perhaps a Joe Sloan, maybe even a Brad Davis, they might be the sacrificial lambs. He's got to make a move of some kind, give some red meat to this angry fan base. I don't think we thought that he was going to be fired, and here we are. He's out.
Yeah, we didn't think so. You know, the amazing thing about it, though, Jacques, that night, I remember one of my buddies from Shreveport who I played with called me up and he said, this was ugly. And I said, it was bad. And we both agreed that we don't see how you recover from this. So we thought what would happen is you'd go through the season, and at the end of the year, he'd probably demolish his staff and rebuild his staff, or he might get fired at the end of the year. Didn't think that they would do it right then.
Well, Greg, what I've heard is, losing at Vanderbilt, although, still when you hear Vanderbilt in your brain, you say, we shouldn't lose to Vanderbilt, we're LSU, but losing to Vanderbilt and Ole Miss, 2 top 10 teams on the road, and the scores on paper look competitive, although you and I were talking before. We thought Vanderbilt kind of pushed LSU around.
The Vanderbilt loss was the one that disturbed me the most, because when you watch the game, LSU really got pushed around on both sides of the ball. And that was saying, wait a minute, this is Vandy pushing LSU around. This is not good. And so that one was more disturbing to me, because I knew Texas A&M was good. I mean, you looked at Texas A&M on film. We watched them on film a couple of times against different teams, and their defense was so good on film. You knew that was going to be a problem.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminded me of the Alabama game last year. It was kind of a LSU, I think, going into the Alabama game last year, had 2 losses. It was a rainy, kind of nasty day. You're at home. It's night. And your back's against the wall, and you get blown out. Now, the Alabama game last year, they got blown out from the get-go. In this A&M game, they're leading at the half, 18-14, kind of made some special plays, blocked a punt. A.J. Halsey makes an interception in the end zone to save some points. But in the second half, the Q word comes up, quit. Did they quit?
That was a big thing. Did this team quit on him? I don't know. I think that they just made so many mistakes. It was just technically they just weren't real sound. And I said that especially on the defensive side. If you watch the defensive line play, this wasn't sound. They didn't rush in the gaps. They didn't do everything they were supposed to do to keep the quarterback inside the pocket. And then I think over time, Texas offense scored. They moved the ball.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing. And the special teams, the return for a touchdown was kind of the thing that just broke it open.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think about it. I think their special teams, it feels like, have been pretty good. They haven't had a game like that where they
hadn't. I mean, they blocked a punt.
Yeah.
And got the safety, so you figure everything was upbeat. But then when A&M returns this, I think it was a punt or a kickoff. It's a punt return. Yeah. It just broke everything open.
Well, Chadwick, the punter for LSU, he's been outstanding. And Ramos has had a really good career. He every now and then he'll miss one, maybe have a bad kick, but been pretty solid there. But yeah, to give up the 80-yard punt return and to get boat race there, I think it was 21-0 in the third quarter. So it's not only about the result; it's the optics of your stadium being empty.
That's right.
The Texas A&M students moving into the,
which I thought was a neat move on their part. You got to give them credit. I mean, that was pretty.
Yeah,
that was pretty.
Well,
creative.
It was kind of weird, and we use that word, Greg, sometimes when talking about some of those Aggie fans. Weird, but the students, when LSU scored that last touchdown, that cosmetic touchdown, and the students do the T-I. Well, the A&M fans were doing it with them. Like, okay, we'll play along and do your thing too, right? So the optics of it was embarrassing. And so apparently, I mean, it took Brian Kelly, I think, a good half hour or longer before he got to the podium.
Really?
So we're wondering, okay, is he getting his you-know-what reamed, or is he firing people? What's going on back there? But at the end of the day, the powers that be, they put up the money. That was the thing all along, Greg. They're not going to give him $53 million, too. We're Louisiana, okay? We don't have that much money. But we're doing it.
$54 million, I was reading the thing from the contractor guy sent me the other day, yesterday, and I looked at it. The way the buyout's structured, if it goes away, what I saw, I mean, you're talking about he'll get $750,000 a month.
Yeah.
For the next 5 years.
Well, when you played, and not to make you feel old, but when you played, and like when they push Charlie Mack out or they fire Stovall, it's kind of like, oh man, poor guy. You hate to see that happen. And there's no sympathy for any of these coaches these days.
No, it's not. And the thing about it is, these contracts now are basically settlement agreements. Because basically, when you sign the contract with the coach, it says that he's going to make that much. If something goes wrong, that's what he's going to make. Mm-hmm. If things go great, he's going to make that plus.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah, well, that's what I always, Greg, said. They give these guys so much money. I thought you're giving them so much money because they're expected to do well. Oh, no, they do well, and now we owe them more on top of that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I looked at Brian Kelly's contract. There was if he won 6 games or more, he got I think a $500,000 bonus. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. You just win 6 games. I mean, really?
Yeah. But, he's a complicated subject, okay?
Yeah.
So I don't fault Scott Woodward for hiring Brian Kelly because on paper at the time, he was the most accomplished coach LSU had ever hired in terms of at the time of the hire. Even more than Nick Saban was at the time. We know what Nick Saban has become, the greatest of all time. And what he did for LSU is still resonating today. But, I mean, sometimes people, like one guy on Facebook, I saw him, he sucked at Notre Dame. No, he didn't. Okay, I mean, now granted, on one hand, who you're playing, right?
That's right.
So, but in 2017, 10-3, 12-1, 11-2, 10-2, 11-1. Those are just the last few years there. So on one hand, he comes here and you're saying, okay, you're not going to be playing Wake Forest and some of these people that you kind of fatten up on. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, Greg, right, you can recruit Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, harder to recruit up at Notre Dame. It's cold up there. They've got their academic requirements, right? That's what we always hear.
Yeah.
So, look, he got off to a great start here. The first year, not much was expected. They beat Alabama. Jaden Daniels throws the ball to Mason Taylor. 2-point conversion. This guy's great. And then after that, up and down. And this year, the worst he's been.
Well, the thing of it is, let's remember what happened. When he came in, when he got here, he did all that. And then at the end of year 3, he said, hey, we need to do some things. We need to change some things. I need more money. I need to do this. I need to do that. Well, LSU gave him everything he asked for.
Yes.
And in Brian Kelly's words, he had more talent at LSU than he's had in the 4 years he's been there.
This is my most talented roster.
And so we're ready. And so when you go out, when you say that and you go out and then you lose to Ole Miss and you lose to Vanderbilt and then you still have Alabama, Oklahoma, and Arkansas to play, all of a sudden people start looking and saying, wait a minute.
Expectations.
Yeah.
As a coach at LSU once told me, preseason polls get coaches fired.
Yeah. And look, the time to talk about keeping receipts is after the season.
And look, I'm not trying to burn people on what they say. I've said a lot of stupid things over the years, but I always just wondered, why did he go to the podium and say, we're taking receipts and we'll see you at the national championship? Was it an emotional thing? He just felt like saying it at the moment, but under promise, over deliver, right?
Absolutely, every time.
A politician or coach, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And it's tough. And now with the NIL game out there, one of the things I think my philosophy on NIL, you can spend as much money as you want on talent in the NIL game. If you can't make them play together, you just got an overpaid roster. Mm-hmm. You're not going to win. Mm-hmm. And that's you got to be able to coach these guys. You have to be able to make them all work together. And if you can't do that, I think it doesn't matter how much money you spend in NIL.
Yeah. Well, that's the question now, Greg, in the fact that, look, I've interviewed a lot of these guys that they've gotten. They seem like they're good guys. They want to win. But, the word mercenary is used,
Mm-hmm.
And you go out and get a bunch of one-year mercenaries, and what are your selling points? Money and win a national championship. Well, I got the money, or most of it, I guess. I don't know how they're collecting this monthly or upfront or whatever. And now I'm out of the national championship picture. If I didn't come to LSU because I love LSU, and I mean, you were a Louisiana guy, I would imagine.
Right.
The LSU dream, that was your dream?
Yeah, not kind of. Everybody in my high school went to LSU who was playing ball at the time, so it was natural for me.
Yeah. And so, but if they're not into in Tiger Stadium Saturday night, the Golden Band from Tigerland, the history of LSU, at this point, what's their motivation?
It's just basically if you can play and get to the next level.
Right.
And then after that, it becomes the money, financial aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's just it. And I just think you have to. Hopefully, what will happen is that people start putting more emphasis on getting a really good coach, letting them build a really good coaching staff, and it may not be the coach that makes $12 million a year. Maybe a coach who's learning, being able to identify talent and make sure they can work together. And then you're going to have to spend some money in the NIL game, but you have to have the coaches there to coach it. Mm-hmm. When you look out there and you see a defensive line that's undisciplined, it's not playing well, and it's out of its rush lanes, and you have to sit and go, why is that happening?
Yeah. And on the other side of the ball, I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Brad Davis, like Brad, done some nice features on him. They've had trouble. There's so many problems on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
It's not, okay, has Garrett Nusmire been the best leading man, so to speak?
Yeah,
no. If I'm Joe Sloan and people are saying my play calling stinks, I mean, I can say, well, the offensive line isn't giving me anything to create up front. And then they can say, well, you're calling bad plays. Yeah. And it's just Smoke Lavelle had a saying one time, bucket of yuck. Big bucket of yuck. So it's kind of a bucket of yuck over there.
I know at the beginning of the season, Charlie Hannengriff and I sat down and we were talking about it, and he said, talking to LSU, they're going to rotate 8 offensive linemen.
That's true, yeah. We forget. That's only been a few months ago on that August stuff.
And I remember looking, I looked at him and went, there's no way. If you have to rotate 8 offensive linemen, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Because nobody does that. Now, they do it on defense. They run them in and out. But offensively, you have an offensive unit that learns to play together, that's well-known, that could learn the language, know how each other plays, and you play with them unless somebody gets hurt.
Then another preseason Brian Kelly comment. And look, sometimes is he talking to the team through the media, trying to boost their confidence? Sure, that's great. But he said before the year, I've coached a lot of offensive linemen. I know what a good offensive line looks like. I've coached a lot of first. These guys are going to be pretty good. And they haven't been the running game has gotten better. Harlem Berry appears to perhaps have the best vision of the running backs.
Yeah. And the thing about Harlem Berry, I got to get this out. I try not to criticize coaches too much, but you watched him in the A&M game, and when he ran the ball, you went, oh, man, he's the guy.
Yeah.
But he never touched the ball again.
Right. That was a big criticism.
Yeah, he just never – and I went, what happened? Yeah. He just never touched it again.
Well, the opening drive of the game, do they get too caught up in scheming and their scripted plays? I mean, I think the first time they gave him the ball, he gets 17 yards.
Yeah.
Give it to him again.
Yeah.
Did he touch the ball one time in the third quarter?
I think once in the third quarter.
And didn't touch it again. So I don't know if it's a case of, look, we need to get Caden his carries and we need to spread it around and we need to do this and do that. I mean, how much of it is it a feel thing? Hey, this is working. This feels good. Let's keep giving him the ball.
Well, that and how much, I don't know how much of it, because they run a lot of shotgun and a lot of no huddle. I don't know how much of it is they give Nusmire 2 plays and he gets to check the one he wants, so he gets to decide which one you run. I don't know. It depends on what he sees. It could be that.
Yeah. Second or third play of the game, Nusmire draws back, blind side, just gets rocked, crushed. But then there's another play late. Second quarter, I think they're driving towards the south end zone. He's got a guy wide open, nothing but green in front of him. Hops it, skips it to him, gets taken out of the game late. I think you and I were talking off camera. He talks his coach a bit.
Yeah.
He's a bit in his feelings.
Yeah. And I watched the game with some of my former teammates. One of them, he was in Shreveport and I was here. We're kind of on the phone to each other, and he said, "Did you see that? I cannot believe they let him do that." He said, "Hey, when we played, have you done that? Waved the coach off like that? What happens is the coach calls a timeout, calls the security over, and goes, 'Hey, get him off my sidelines.' Let everybody see that you get walked into the locker room, because you know what that message is? Don't ever do that again."
Yeah.
And when he waved him off and Kelly just backed away from him, I thought, nah, there's no way.
Yeah.
And I understand the frustration that Nusmire had, but you got to remember, he's the quarterback. He's one of the leaders. He's the captain of the team.
He's the face of the team.
Yeah. And so you have to understand that everybody's watching, and you get frustrated just like everybody else out there is frustrated. You can't do those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you drive around town. How many Garrett Nusmire billboards have you seen?
Yeah, a bunch.
A
bunch of them,
radio ads. Hey, I'm Garrett Nusmire, Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge,
Hey. Look, I tell you, it's It is. Well, with that comes great responsibility, and you have to understand when you take that on, there's responsibility that comes with that. To
much is given,
much is expected,
including the head coach.
Yeah, the head coach, same way. So you have to understand that, and I think that was lost somewhere, and I think it was because of the frustration of the season itself. I think that's where it was lost.
Yeah, well, his passing numbers are way down from what they were a year ago. He put up 300 yards pretty consistently. This year, they're barely scratching 200 or a little bit more. And a few things about Kelly, okay? I hear people say, well, he shouldn't yell and scream at the players like Saban because he hasn't won like Saban. Well, Saban was yelling and screaming before he won the first title. That's what kind of enabled them to win the first title. And I hear Brian Kelly, he throws people under the bus in the post-game press conference. Well, if you give up 7 quarterback sacks and somebody says, we want you to ask the questions of what happened, and Kelly says, well, we didn't pass protect well today, he's just telling you what happened in the game to an extent. But if Greg Bowser, he's not working as hard as everybody else is working, and he's not putting in the time around the clock year-round, we knew Nick Saban was invested just as much as anybody, if not more. So I think that's where maybe there's a problem.
Well, I think you have to be consistent as a coach. I think you've got to be consistent. And I don't think you have to treat everybody the same, but I think you have to be consistent. And, when a guy does something that's not right, I think you let him know it, and, some of the bigger lessons that you learn sometimes, I tell people the story when I was Nick Saban was here, and my oldest son was in about 5th or 6th grade. He'd enjoy going watch practice on Thursday, so that Nick would let the former players come out and watch practice. And I remember watching practice, and I had my son with me, and one of the defensive backs messed up. Well, Nick Saban just exploded. If you've ever been around a Nick Saban explosion, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, he went and he was yelling and cursing, and I mean, he was just using all kind of foul language. And I'm standing there with my kid, and I'm going, "What?" And he looks and sees me there. He immediately walks over to me and he looks at my kid and he says, "Now, see that guy right there? He's going to be a first-round draft pick, but every now and then you got to kind of kick him in the behind, and he's okay." And all of a sudden, my son forgot he was cursing, and all he knew is that Coach Saban came and talked to him.
Yeah.
And he did that because Saban became aware of where he was and what he meant. And that's what captains have to do. That's what the Nusmires have to do. Is it wrong to pull me out in a game? I don't want to come out now, but I got to understand what the magnitude of what I do has. My reaction has a huge impact, and I think that's the big difference. And I think that's what, that's kind of what the team was missing, is that they didn't. I don't think they understood that, and I think the coaches, the head coach especially, it's the same thing. If you coach them hard, if you coach everybody hard, then people get the message. But if you selectively coach hard, things change. You confuse them.
Yeah, and it was brought up. I listened to some of their local radio shows today. Kelly was called a couple of times on his headset saying, "Joe, what are you calling, or what are you doing, or whatever?" And they said, "Well, you're the head coach. You should know what he's calling, or you have the right to veto things. No, we're not going to run that. Run this instead." And then you get accused, I guess, of meddling.
Well, look, the head coach, your boss can't meddle. I'm just telling you. I don't know how you get your boss from meddling. Your boss just you can meddle, but he can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest difference. I think that this thing unraveled pretty quick. I mean, it really did. And I think that the signs were there. I mean, and again, for me, it was the Vanderbilt game. That was the one that told me that we got a real problem.
Yeah.
We can't stop these guys, and it's unbelievable.
And when your fan base travels to Nashville, I think Vanderbilt Stadium is 35,000. I think there were 20,000 LSU fans.
At least half, yeah. At least, I mean, it was unbelievable. I thought it was a really good showing.
Yeah, which is crazy that Vanderbilt's a top 10 team and they only have 15,000 of their own fans.
They didn't believe.
In the stadium in a big city like Nashville. I guess even Vanderbilt football is kind of distant in terms of what's going on there. But and Kelly, look, if he would have gone 12-0 every year, nobody cares about certain things. But I've been talking to a lot of people about the first day he got here. And that plane landed, and it was like the President of the United States is landing. They had all these LSU fans out at that airport. They were up against the fence. They all are there to support their new head coach. And this guy gives them a little wave. It gets in the car and takes off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, walk over there just for a second. Just say, "All right, guys, go Tigers. Thanks for coming out." Then get in your car.
Yeah.
But from the get-go, I'm like, man, this guy, and it's kind of like you're a thing of clay, Greg. Let the fans kind of mold you a little bit. This guy he was never molded by this fan base at all.
No, he wasn't. And, I don't want to kick a guy when he's down because, look, I hate when anybody loses their job. Mm-hmm. Even if you're going to get paid after, that's still a bad thing. Okay?
And it's easy to pile on right now after the fact.
I don't want to. But you look at, I think back about how the former players felt about Brian Kelly. Mm-hmm. No, none of those guys were warm and fuzzy about him. I mean, they really, and then it got to the point to where they just didn't like him.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And so I think a lot of it had to do when he came in. There were a lot of former players that were working in the administration. He got rid of everybody. One of the ones that got me was, Kevin Falk was a perfect example. Kevin's getting ready to go into the College Football Hall of Fame, and he gets laid off the Monday before. What are you doing? And so those kinds of things, I think that were either just bad timing on his part or intentional. I don't know which one. I'm going to give him credit and say he was just doing what he do. But I think that hurt him. He didn't endear himself to the fans. And so, the minute things went poorly, people were going to scream.
Well, here's another thing. So that coach's show, his radio show at TJ Ribs. Yeah. I've gone to it a million years, no matter who the coach is. And during the commercial break, the fans have always gone up to the coach, taken a picture with him, got an autograph, whatever. And I remember his first show. Fans started walking up. The state trooper, whoever, No, you're not coming up here. I'm like, that's a bad move.
Wow.
That's a bad move. Now, I think maybe the waters warmed a little as it went on, but, they used to do something called the Tiger Tour, where the coach would go around city to city talk. Did he ever do that?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Once again, if he would go 12-0 or 11-1 and make playoffs and win a national title, 1 in 4 years or whatever, we wouldn't talk about this stuff. But I just feel like he has arguably the greatest fan base, most passionate. And look, we know that when you don't win, it becomes an angry mob and it gets toxic. But he just never really learned how to lean into that and use it to his advantage. I think
he did not. And that was, I think he was uncomfortable with the Louisiana crowd. I think that the way we did things made him a bit uncomfortable. Nick Saban was when he first got here, but I think Nick Saban learned to embrace it. Because he knew it was important to recruiting, he knew it was important to his program, and he did it. But you just have to adjust to it.
Well, and the former player thing too.
Yeah.
I've heard about the coaches who have gone the wrong way here, whatever sport it is. They have been the ones to say, "Oh, that's the past. That's not part of this."
Right.
Kim Mulkey to her credit, learned, hey, everybody who's played here before is part of this. Is part of this
Correct.
family.
Right.
We all love you. When she won a national championship, she mailed pieces of the floor to all the different former players.
Yeah.
She's smart enough. And the LSU coaches who have done well, I think they embrace the past.
They embrace the past, and I think that's, the LSU football and your program, it's about the players. It's about the past players. It's about the future players. It's about the players that you have now.
Yeah. Well, I think Hester and Flynn were talking about, look, I understand when a new coach comes in, I'm totally on board with, look, we need to lay down the law. We've been losing, right? So something's got to change. So we got to change. That's what Saban did when he came in. But there's certainly, it's easy to say now, but there were moves made. Corey Raymond, he boomeranged back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe I should have kept him.
Right.
Blake Baker, need to keep him. And Tommy Moffitt, which at the time there was some discussion. I'm not going to change history. Oh, he's over the hill. He's getting older. He's not as passionate maybe as he used to be. We got a lot of injured players, a lot of guys opting out, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's gone to A&M and he's 2-0 against LSU, and physicality seems to have been a big part of both of those wins.
Yeah, I think so. And look, this LSU offense has been a finesse offense for a long time, a number of years, the last 4 years. When you stop and think about it, the numbers were skewed. The running numbers were skewed because of Jaden Daniel. He ran the ball most of the time. When's the last time LSU had a guy that rushed, a running back that ran for 800 to 1,000 yards? Hadn't happened.
There was a chunk of time, Greg, that Logan Diggs in 2023 had a little nice 4-game, 5-game stretch. But to your point, last year against Nichols, they couldn't run the ball against Nichols.
Right. Nobody, and they became a finesse team. Just look at the guys who've been drafted and why they've been drafted as high as they've been. They've been wide receivers, defense, the skill position guys.
Yes.
We threw the ball more.
Yes.
And that's where we came. We looked a lot like, if you go back and look at the film, we looked a lot like Florida State under Bobby Bowden. Mm-hmm. They just threw the ball.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But then when you get to a point to where all of a sudden your quarterback's struggling and you try to run the ball, you don't become a physical football team overnight.
Yeah.
And
well,
you just can't turn that switch on like that.
You tell me if you agree with this. So I've said this, and I think this team needs a big shot of Les Miles right now. And what do I mean by that, okay? Look, Les won a lot of games. Were there a lot of years where they should have done better than what they did? Yes. Were there a lot of years where LSU lost during the Les Miles period predominantly because of their scheme? They were stubborn offensively. But what did they do well? They were physical. They ran the ball. And defense, most of the time, they punch you in the mouth, right? Mm-hmm. When the Les Miles teams lost, rarely did they get pushed around or intimidated or that kind of thing. It was like, our dang quarterback can't throw the ball down the field, or our scheme are running Leonard Fournette into 20 guys up front, that kind of thing. And so I think that's been brought up a lot with the current physicality, and they're soft. I mean, I've heard, that's not me talking, that's former players, you know? Mm-hmm. So I don't know how they change that, if the strength and conditioning coaches change when they get a new coach or whatever.
Well, maybe, you're already talking about next year, because you're not, your finesse team, you're not going to become physical between now and the next game.
That's right.
It's not going to happen. That's not going to change.
That's right.
So, it's just not going to happen. And so I think you have to look at what you have and adjust your scheme such. If you're not a physical team, you like to throw the ball around, then okay, let's spread people out and see what we're going to do. Let's throw it around. Let's throw short passes. Let's run the draws every now and then. We'll run a one-back offense with 4 wides, and every now and then we run the draw. We'll do things like that. That's how we're going to run the ball.
Yeah.
And do that. Put yourself in positions to be successful with what you have, and then with the understanding that when you get to next spring, you're going to have to become a physical football team.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. And I think defensively, we've got to be much more disciplined on the defensive side, the defensive front. You can put pressure and learn how to do things like that. That I think you can do. You can make those adjustments, but you're not going to change the whole mindset of this football team from being a finesse team to being a physical team in about 2-3 weeks. That's not going to happen.
Well, that reminds me, Greg, I remember when I was in the 7th grade, I said, Dad, I'm going to play football. He said, you're a skinny 120-pound whatever, you better hit the weights. And I never did. And the season started, Dad, I want to hit the weights now. It's too late.
It's too late.
You need to do that like 6 months ago, a year ago, before you get in there. The quarterback spot. So are they in a spot now? Look, Frank Wilson's taken over. We have a new set of eyes on this. We've got a new Brian Kelly's no longer running things. So do we have a new, hey, let's give this Michael Van Buren a look? We'll see if he's part of our future or not, because Garrett Nussmire's not here next year one way or the other.
Well, I think if Garrett Nussmire is your best quarterback on your team, you play him. When you start talking about looking to the future, you got more games to play this year. You know, I don't think it's fair to some of the kids who on the team who are maybe seniors. This may be their last year to all of a sudden say, hey, you know, we're 5-3.
Yeah.
I mean, the season's not over. You're 5-3. A lot of good things can still happen. Now, can I get to the playoffs? Probably not. Probably not. Yeah. But you know what? There's a lot of good things that can happen. And so you play to win the game, and the way you do that is you put your best 11 people out there, and you go from there. And do you play the backup quarterback? Yeah, there going to be times where you can play him. This coming up, you got games coming up where you better play him. Yeah. And I think you do that to get some experience. But for the most part, you play to win the game with the best players you got to agree with.
Well, that's how the game has changed, maybe, and not for the better. Because I was talking to you about this before you came on. You were on the '82 Orange Bowl team. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal.
Yeah,
going to the Orange Bowl, right? I mean, there were 2 teams that made it to the championship, and everybody else was like, and it wasn't even called a championship. It was kind of like, well, we think the Sugar Bowl winner is the champion, or we think whoever wins the Cotton or the Rose, whatever, is the champion. And everybody else is like, okay, well, let's angle for a New Year's Day Bowl or something that was a big deal. And now the 12-team playoff has made everything else kind of like the NIT in college basketball, where I'm not interested and I'm not going to spend money to go to those games and whatnot. And so, and I don't like that. I used to like bowl games, and I used to think that, hey, let's try to win as many games as we can, and let's try to finish as high in the national rankings as we can. But there are some people out there that, because we're spoiled.
Yeah.
There's that word, spoiled.
Well, you know, expectations went up.
Mm-hmm.
So did the price of participation. All of that thing went up. So when you do that, you know, people expect more. Listen, there are guys on this team that are going to be sought after by other teams in the transfer portal because they're good. They can play well. And those guys have to put some good things on tape. Somebody has to see that you can play well. Mm-hmm. And so this is their opportunity to do that. There are going to be guys out there who get drafted. Some of them who won't. Some of them get free agency. And the way you do that is you show that you can play. Mm-hmm. And so putting them out there and playing and the way they play, that's going to determine what happens to their future. And so I think you give them a chance to play. And the ones that can play will play, and the ones that don't, you change them out.
Yeah. Well, the NFL teams have these guys under a microscope. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's the old saying? If they were rude to their third grade cafeteria teacher, the NFL teams know about it. You know, I mean, they know about everything. Yeah. And so I guess everything you put on tape, you want to put 110%.
That's right.
Why are you dogging it? Oh, well, we're out of the playoff race. Well, you're going to be playing for us. We might be 3-12. Yeah. You're going to dog it?
Yeah. You want to see what a guy does when he's behind. What does he do? You know, everybody can play well when you're ahead.
Yeah.
You know, it's when you're behind. What happens? Does he quit? Does that guy give up? You know, we talked about Nusmire. I tell you, part of that was nice to see that he was still interested in the game. He still wanted to be there. That was good. Now the way you showed it was not one, but the fact that was still there, that's a good thing. Yeah. You know, the fact you have to build on that. The fact that you wanted to be out there, even though, you know, you were probably getting beat up, you wanted to be out there because you felt that was where you wanted to be. Yeah. The game was out of hand, but that was okay.
Right. You know you're not going to win. There's no comeback.
And that's the thing. That's a good thing. That's a good trait to have.
Yeah. What else do we need to talk about?
I don't know. What else we got?
And there's talk about, look, the next head coach, and there's just, Lane Kiffin at this moment feels like the big fish.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin will be able to choose what job he wants.
Right.
Money and all the things that make a coach go wherever coaches go is not going to be an issue. So
I guess it's a case, if Lane's at Ole Miss, if he wins 9-10 games a year, their expectations at Ole Miss are different than Florida and LSU. Although at one point they could say, Lane, we're tired of winning 9 or 10. When are you going to take us to the playoff, or when are you going to win a national championship?
I'm going to get in trouble with the Ole Miss people. But listen, I'm a Tiger, and I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Lane, you know, it's almost impossible for him to win the national championship at Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. I think you can win it. You can win it a lot easier at LSU.
Yeah.
You had the last 3 out of 4 coaches won it.
Yeah. Yeah. And certainly, look, no offense to Les Miles or Ed Ogeron, but you knew Brian Kelly had to say, well, if those 2 guys can win it, look at my resume compared to theirs. Yeah. I mean, obviously, they both got national titles, something that Kelly doesn't have. But you look at Kelly's resume altogether, whether it's Grand Valley State, Cincinnati, Central Michigan, Notre Dame. I mean, he's won 80% of his games or whatever the case may be. Won 71% here. Yeah. He's 34-14.
Yeah, I think but again, Lane, if you Lane Kiffin, you can run it at Florida just because of the amount of talent you have. And I think you can certainly win it at LSU. the one thing that really concerns me about LSU in the long run is when you start talking about NIL and collectives and things like that. You know, Texas and Florida have a huge advantage just because of scale. And so, you get into a bidding war with those two schools, all of a sudden, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. It ain't going to last very long.
Well, we know people will tell you that there's been cheating in college football forever. That's not new. But it was a lot easier for me, at least, to judge who were the good coaches and who weren't.
Yeah.
Because, guys like Mike Gundy and Dabo Swinney were pretty good at what they did and were kind of considered upper echelon coaches. This latest NIL transfer portal, they just got boat raced. They got left behind.
Yeah.
And
well, you have to decide what you're going to do. I mean, you look at it's much more difficult now to look at a younger coach or look at a coach that's not consistently winning a national championship and say, let me see if I can project who the next guy is going to be. Who's that next up-and-coming coach?
Mm-hmm.
That's now what has to happen because your resources for a long time, you just pay the head coach a bunch of money. You see a good coach out there, Jacques over at a school, and he almost wins a national championship every year. He's competing. Well, you know what? I'm going to go over there and just buy him. I'm just going to give him a contract he cannot resist and take him.
Yeah.
That doesn't, you can do that. But now you have to look at a guy who can be on the upcoming. You think about it. Look at the top 4 teams in the country right now. They're not the teams that spent the most in NIL. They're not the teams who have the highest paid coaches. How does that happen? So if money's everything, you think those 4 guys wouldn't be up there. Mm-hmm. If what you paid the coach meant anything at all, the top 4 coaches would be the highest paid coaches in the NCAA.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Yeah. Well, you've heard, I think, like the Alabama basketball coach, Oates, they were talking about redoing the arena and stuff, and he said, they used to hear about facilities were big to recruiting.
Yeah.
Now you can play in the dungeon if you
Doesn't
give
matter.
the guy a lot of money.
Yeah.
Use that money on the roster.
Yeah. That's one of the things in the LSU people. I remember talking to a big women's basketball supporter here at LSU, and we were talking about a new arena. They're going to build a new. This was 2 years ago. We're talking about building a new arena, and I went, "What's wrong with the one you have?" Well, you can't recruit to it. I said, "Wait a minute. You just went undefeated almost, won a national championship, and you telling me you can't recruit to?"
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
Well, I guess they need those suites. They got to make the money off the suites and those kind of things, and they're trying to combine it now because the River Center is too small. It's less than 10,000. They're not getting the big concert acts. I don't know. By the time they build that thing, you'll be on the beach with a drink in your hand.
Well, I'll just hope I can remember where a beach is. I
used to joke about Brian Kelly. He's not going to go to the beach. He's going to buy the beach.
He can now.
And that's a whole discussion, too. Like how motivated we talked about how motivated is a 60-year-old when you give him a 10-year contract. I don't fault Scott Woodward for hiring Brian Kelly. It was a huge land at the time to get. It's hard to get a guy that's established to leave his job. But then how much did he want to be here? And then when you know that, hey, even if I flop, I'm walking away with a lot of money.
Yeah, the thing of it is the big question. 10 years is a long time. The world changes in 10 years. The entire world changes in 10 years. You look at where we are now. 10 years ago, nobody would have ever thought this. That we'd have NIL, you'd have the transfer portal, just in sports. Mm-hmm. Nobody would have ever thought that there would be AI. Doing what all of those things now, and so I think 10 years is a long time. I think what you're gonna see in the future is the dollar amounts may stay high, but the length of those contracts is gonna have to come down, just because the contracts they sign today, head coaches, most of them, they're just settlement agreements. They're basically saying, this is how much we're gonna pay you. If things go good, bad, and different, this is the least you're gonna make. I remember back when I played, you'd hear, well, they're in discussions with Coach so-and-so that look at how much they're going to buy him out. He has 4 years left on his contract. It's $100,000, but they're going to probably offer him less than that. And they're negotiating to get that number down. Today, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, there was a time in the NFL where the rookies, like they said, look, the rookie quarterback doesn't need to be getting paid more money than the guys who have proven themselves in the league, won Super Bowls or whatever, and they somehow got that horse back in the barn and fixed that. So I don't know if they can get the toothpaste back in the tube.
Well,
whatever cliche you want to use.
Yeah, they're going to have to fix it somehow. And I think I don't think the transfer portal is what's causing the problem. I really don't think it is. I don't think it's I think the fact that there's so much money in college football. I mean, you stop and think about it for a second. I mean, Kirby's smart, and Kirby's a good coach. He's making $12 million. And $12 million a year, and that's a guaranteed $12 million a year for whatever that length of that contract is.
Yeah.
So it's hard to do, and now for the first time, your real labor is fixing to cost you some money. That's the players, and so it's going to go up. I don't know, in 5 to 10 years from now, when there's a union for representing the players, the cost is going to go up again. And I think that's where we're headed.
Wow, I think I have a headache now, Greg. I got into this because of Tiger Stadium and LSU football. It's exciting, and it's too real world now.
It is. It's too real world. I think it's I got into there because it was a lot of fun. Something to do as a kid, and then after that, just kind of hung around. It's a lot of fun. College football is still fun, but it's the business part of it. You've got to manage now. It's just the way it is.
Well, Greg, in closing, they say, I can't wait for LSU football. I can't wait for football season. I can't wait. And then we all start griping the second it starts. But what a week we've had in this town. Southern fired their coach, Terrence Graves. He's out. And then LSU fired their coach in the same week. Good thing BRCC didn't play football. They'd fire their guy too, I guess.
Yeah. And the guy at the Saints who just got there, they want to fire him. And Kellen Moore just got there. They want to get rid of him. It's amazing. And we hadn't played men's basketball. Hadn't played yet. They want to fire him. He got to go. It's a tough business, man. I think it. But I think LSU overall. I think college football has to find its way. I think they've got to. They've got to. They've got to change some things, and the change has to come from the internal stuff. I think the NCAA has to regulate its members and quit trying to regulate the players coming in. They need to regulate their members.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen.
We'll see what happens.
All right, man.
Greg Bowser.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And send our best to Dan Bornay. We saw him the other day, and
well.
you've worked with him for years, right? In the same building and everything.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, he's a good Christian man, right? He
is.
Speak at Mass and all that stuff. And
He is.
Yeah, good deal.
Good guy.
All right. Greg Bowser here, former LSU Tiger and broadcaster currently. Thanks for stopping by Jacques Talk. We'll see you later.